So we're being recorded, and I will call the meeting to order for the Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters, April 19,
Yeah, hey, Bill.
2021.
Hey, Bill, just before we get going, can someone volunteer to take the minutes for tonight? Anybody want to take volunteer?
Do we know where we might be on the alphabetical list?
I have to pull it up, but
So Lochtefeld, Barrett, Deaver, Hufford,
Oh, you're killing me.
Khan.
all right.
Shuey,
I'll tell you what, I'll do it.
Vilter's not here. Wright's here.
I'll do it, but I'll sign it next time. Ahead.
All right, thank you, Tom. That was, so I don't think we've got minutes from last meeting, Tom, that's right?
No, I think we got to go to the recorded Zoom call and get somebody to write meetings.
Can we have a volunteer for someone who would do that for, Tom here is doing double duty as a clerk, it's too much. So if we could have someone volunteer, to just go over the recording and take sort of a skeleton of notes so that we have a good public record. I'm gonna pick someone if no one steps up. Hey, Bill Wright, would you mind doing that? After that. So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't listen to it all live time. I think you can fast forward through some of it. You were at the meeting, right?
Say that again?
You were at the meeting, I think,
The last meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, but my memory's probably lost it. I'll have to go back.
Well, my advice on that is there are key points, like we took some votes and those votes were recorded on the polling. So that's some key things, but I don't think you have to listen to it all minute by minute. I think you probably could reduce the time to half an hour or so. And the idea, the scheme here for people who have forgotten or haven't done it yet, is that by alphabet, Tom Lochtefeld assigns someone to take notes. And you do sort of a rough draft write-up, forward it on to Tom, and he'll polish it and put it in the form that we needed for the minutes. So it's sort of already just reducing your task right there, and Tom's accomplished at reducing it to the compiling in the form we need. So
So when I go through the recording and I put this together, who am I sending it? Am I sending it to Tom?
Yeah, you sent it to me.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it.
So again, shouldn't take too long. Anyone who has to do this, I think you're basically half hour listening to the tape and then 15, 20 minutes of making sure it looks okay to send off to Tom. So anyway,
Okay.
Thank you both.
Okay.
And as another, let's see, procedural matter, I think, Tom, you sent around the final 2021 contact logistics. Everyone gave you input?
Yes, everyone who gave me input, I recorded that input on the new one and sent it around. So the final version that went out on, I believe it was Friday at about noon, was my most up-to-date version. If you have any additional changes, just let me know and I can update it and resend it out to the group.
Super. Thank you. And then what I wanted to get right to, and the chairman.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah,
just a point of order.
sure.
You have to call a meeting. You have to start the meeting.
He
Had I
did.
not done
Yeah,
that?
he did, Tom.
I missed that. My mistake.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I interrupted him to ask about minutes right after he started the meeting.
And I might not have been dynamic enough. I've got to get my parliamentarian skills more quick. So what I did want to jump to right away is the chairman's report and a hanging matter from our last meeting. And that was on the Coastal Commission overview PowerPoint. And what I wanted to do was put that to a vote. I wanted to show you all language that I've drummed up. That's the actual vote. Let me just share a screen and bring some of this up for you to recall. Everyone can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was the this was the piece. If you recall, it had, excuse me, cover page and then just a statement of, sort of a general statement of our mission. And then our actual charter from our 2009 resolution. And then I drew up the duties as I saw it, and I hope you all agreed, of the commission. And I tried to summarize the work undertaken in 2020. And then simply had a list of contacts of the commissioners and our ex officio members. I got a couple comments from a couple people on this and made what were non-controversial changes. But otherwise they stood, and I'm assuming that people didn't have an issue with it, because what I wanted to do was for us to vote on this resolution. And I'll give you all a second to read it. And I phrased it last time. The idea here is to every year to refresh this. It gives us sort of an overview document when someone asks, what do we do as a commission? Either one of the selectmen or somebody in the town. We can shoot this to them, and it's helpful. And I know that our predecessors, Sandy McDonald and Link Jewett, had a document similar to this. It wasn't PowerPoint and it didn't have any pictures, but it was pretty well done. And they used it in a similar manner. And I thought it was helpful on the occasions I used it. So that's one idea of using it. And the second is for us all to see what we do and sort of have an agreement. And in that sense, I think this is sort of an informal strategic plan, but it's not meant to be binding in the sense of curtailing our action in any fashion or restricting us to the real verbiage that's on the page. But I think it helps point us in a direction, and to the extent we feel we disagree with something in a subsequent year or in the current year, we can choose to change it, and it serves as a discussion point. So I think it would be helpful for us to refresh this every year. And so getting back to the vote, I'd like to propose that we vote on this tonight. And does anyone second that? I guess I should ask to be more
Yeah, I
formal.
second the motion.
Great. And so would there be any further discussion on it? Again, I don't mean to pass this swiftly, although there's other times to talk about it in the year, but if there's more substantial discussion we should have at this point, please let's engage in it now.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, the one thing that I might suggest.
Yep.
The one thing that I might suggest is maybe have it, I mean, I don't really see a title on it. I mean, you're making a resolution to accept this document, but is it titled? Is it a mission statement, or is it just?
Yeah, I just kept it as the, that is sort of innocuous there. I think that's a good comment, Tom. So like you might say, maybe just mission statement or strategic plan, or what would you think?
I think strategic plan sounds pretty cool. You got it. I think you nailed it on the head there. Or maybe, yeah. Or
We're a small enough group here. How does the rest of the group feel
yeah,
about
or a mission statement,
change?
or annual mission statement, because it's going to be updated every year.
For 2021 strategic plan, you'd put the actual year in there?
Yeah,
That works.
that sounds good.
Or it could be annual plan of work.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna put forward that we call it the 2021 strategic plan. And that would just go above the title somewhere of the existing title somewhere, Darien Advisory Commission on Coastal Water. So if that seems to hit the midstream here, can we assume that's the case for the vote coming in front of us here?
That works for me.
I think that sounds good.
Okay. Well, let's see, stop share. So you've all read this. You're okay with understanding it? Now stop the share and, last time we did vote by polling, but we could just do a hand count and Tom Lochtefeld, you could be the counter perhaps, including your
Sure.
own.
All in favor, put your hand up.
Bill, just to be a parliamentarian, I was told that when we're doing it by video, you're supposed to actually call each person's name and they say yes or no.
Okay, Tom L, why don't you follow Lori's suggestion? That sounds good to me.
Sure. Bill, yay or nay?
Yay.
William, yay or nay? You just give me a thumbs up if it's yay. All right, Eric?
Yay.
Okay, Tom Bell, are you a voting member? I guess not.
No, I'm not.
Okay, Grant? Yay. Dave? Deaver? Okay, Dave, the other Dave is good. Okay, and Rob?
Yep.
Okay,
Yay.
that's a yay, Rob? Okay, good enough. All right,
Everybody, I'm having some vaccine side effects here, so I'm taking this from bed and turning my video off so you don't have to look at me sitting here.
all right, yeah,
Our sympathies, David.
all right.
All right, and
Feel
Tom
better, David.
Lochtefeld, did you register your vote?
Yes, I'm a yay, so that's the unanimous vote.
Great. All right, so the resolution then is adopted and with the amendment of the cover page, good suggestions by everybody, we'll move forward with that. That's great.
All right,
All right, I just had a couple other things. One, I just wanted to bring up some of the new DOP applications that came my way. This is still an area where we don't have any game plan, and I'm not sure we're going to get one soon, but I still think it's worth just noting what's flowing under our eyes. I mistakenly included both 237 Long Neck Road and 163. 237 you've already seen, or I already mentioned it. So it's 163 Pear Tree Point that is the one that's of interest, that is new. And my understanding of it is a refurbishment of an existing dock and works within the constraints or outlines of the prior permit. So I don't think there's much of an issue with it. And of course, we don't have any authorization to have real opinions on this anyway, but I did want to show it to you for just a little thought as we try to see these and talk about them. So here is the, sorry, it's a little big. Here's the permit site outlined in blue. And again,
we're not seeing anything, Bill.
oh, I'm sorry, I've got a screen. Jeez. Seeing my screen now?
Yep, there we go. Awesome.
So I would call this just, as we wonder maybe through the months or years about where we might have a voice on these, if there's any useful voice we can play, useful part we can play, any voice we can have. I think it's worth just us taking a look at some of these that pass by, sort of a form of education. And here's the property that is getting its permit issued, from my understanding.
Yeah. Do you know the name?
We've got notice of Greco is what I want to say, but I'm not sure if that's the
Okay.
yes, I do. Hold on a second. 163 Pear Tree Point Road. Well, it says Greco Outlet is an LLC is the licensee, and I'm not
Oh.
sure if that's the owner or if it's
I think that might be the consultant.
consultant. That's what I'm sort of thinking. So I without looking deeper in here, I don't know. Again, they're doing a refurbishment, and that seems like an easier shot than not. But here's the point I wanted to make, just as I look at these and try to understand them and what a planning and zoning board and what a water an outward towards the water planning and zoning decision would entail. So as you see at the top left of the picture here is Pear Tree Point Beach, right?
Yep.
not the best shot, but it's pretty clear. And then you come down to the outlined property, 163 Pear Tree Point Road, with the dock at the end here that I'm circling to be refurbished. And here's an outline of, let's see, this is the existing dock and the dock next door. And it looks like the new one will be fairly similar. Sorry, probably my screen is here. It's fairly similar, although the floating dock is actually a little smaller. So it sort of looks like it's working within the same footprint. But here's the point I wanted to make just for our education or thinking as we go along the way. There's Pear Tree Point Beach right there. Here's two large properties which certainly have every legal right to build a dock. But it's really interesting that they're, you know, literally right beside each other. And it's also interesting, you know, it's right beside each other, which makes one wonder, did there ever need to be two docks built?
Yes.
Well, they're certainly by legal right entitled to that. But I will say the regulations that give CT Deep authority over this also mention in them that to the extent possible, if multiple properties have same access to the same water site, that they would try to reduce or combine docks. Now, you know, if you're a property owner where you want to come out on that, and I know where I would come out too, but there's a point to it when you look a little northward here and you see our main public beach and the view that the residents have on that beach towards the sea is quite impeded by those docks. And there's
It
another
is.
house in this corner, which I'm not sure, could it put a dock out here to the same distance?
Sure. Yeah. Sure can.
Yeah, should it have the ability, or should there be more discussion in town about maybe incentives for those?
You're breaking up, Bill.
Yeah.
If you have waterfront, you are entitled to build out what, 25 feet or more?
Able
Yeah, Bill, we can't.
or,
I think the image is taking up too much of your system, Bill, maybe, or something.
yeah, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
that's
that's
much better.
better. Yeah, because I mean, I did go over to Pear Tree and look, because at first I was like, is this new? And then I said, oh, well, there's a dock there, and it really does block the view if you're sitting on the beach. So,
Well, I just raise it as a question, as we see the docks proliferate, and maybe there's some slippage at some time of the rules, so we should pay attention to this, that, you know, they all can be blocking the view of public access areas, and they all may not be that necessary. And again, this is not speaking legally nor from any position of knowledge or authority. This is just me trying to educate myself on the regime that docks are afforded on our coast. And I do think there is some tension with public rights, as that maybe that corner house against Pear Tree Point Beach might make one wonder.
Yeah, I think that'll be
I bring it up.
that'll be the one that'll create a, an interest. If they decide to do it, the one closest to the beach, then you're going to have, concern with a conflict of using the beach. And it'll be interesting to see who wins on that.
you know, my Pear Tree supporters, they're very vocal.
Well, I think it's interesting. What if those other two docks weren't there and we were getting brand new applications for them? Would there be a compromise to be worked out with the property owners? That we could talk to the town about what might be a compromise that might incent them to build just one and build it in a way perhaps that doesn't offer such a perpendicular blocking of the beach view.
What I read right now, the state overrides that. The state is giving out permits, 80-foot, 85-foot docks, no matter what, or more. And they're just rubber stamping them. So I don't think the town would have much to do unless they want to sue. But that's my opinion.
Plus you have a whole insurance side of this where you have two owners, working on a single dock. that could get messy.
I don't think it's the advisory's job to vote on or interfere with whether or not a private citizen can build a dock that gives them access to public waters on their property. And I would be pretty upset if I were the owner of that Pear Tree Point Drive and this commission got involved and said, you don't have this right, or you shouldn't do this. It's our opinion.
This commission isn't proposing that, and you're certainly right, Grant. We do not have any authority or right.
Yeah.
But as we pointed out earlier, the CTD keeps sending these to us because they want a local view, not the local view of the property owner as consultant, but some entity which has a bigger view. And I would say that's probably best us. But what that entitles us to do, I don't know. But you could look at this not as trying to think up prohibitions, but create incentives so that homeowners would actually enjoy not putting up a dock or sharing one with another person, let's say for some sort of accommodation and property tax, because it would preserve more of a public good and they would be helping in that. So, is that something we should be lobbying, turning our attention to our own town government to think about? That aren't negative, but creating wins for the property owners in their eyes. I don't know. I'm speculating, but I'm just wondering what in the future this issues that come up. I think it's worth giving it some pre-thought or ruminating at over time. Well, I just had two small other items. The Darien Men's Association is doing a cleanup of Pear Tree Point Beach. We know that's a pretty quick exercise usually. And so they've also decided to extend it up Goodwives River on the roadside where I know David Kahn made the observation at the beginning of winter, there was a lot of junk for some reason, more than we've ever seen. And Darien Men's Association noticed that also. I know Gary Banks, their president, walks on that road all the time. And so they've elected to do something about it. And this Sunday at 3 p.m., which is low tide, I'm not sure they've got the right decision with that. High tide might be better. But in any event, 3 p.m. low tide, they're going to organize people at Pear Tree Point parking lot. And if anyone wants to join them, I would encourage them to. I'm going to join myself. So it should just be a couple hours and might be a nice way to wrap up the weekend. And the person to contact, by the way, go on to the Darien Men's Association website, and they've got it advertised there. And Mike Heights, I believe, is his name. His email's there. So, or show up at 3 p.m. at Pear Tree. I'm sure they'll take you. The only other thing I was going to bring up was I'd sent around State of the Bays 2021. I was wondering if anyone had seen that. I actually got an interference last minute and couldn't watch it. If someone saw it, they had quick thoughts on it or overview. I actually sent the professor, I think it's Gobler, an email out because I had this interference. I asked him for a video of it, and he sent me promptly one back, but it was 2020. So I've seen half an hour of his last year's one, and I found it really interesting. It's Long Island seems to have quite a septic tank problem, and they're having a lot of eutrophication, hypoxia, and algae blooms as a result, and it's really quite an issue. And I don't know if that is the ability of happening on our side also, but I think it's a cautionary tale and worth knowing a little about or keeping your ears out for septic issues. Scott Coe, for example, right?
Yeah, is he on the Long Island side, Bill? Or was the study on the Long Island side?
Yeah, he's at SUNY. Yeah, and apparently he's been giving these lectures every year. And they've been doing a lot of work, I guess, on measuring the algae blooms. And, a lot of this stuff is, they're hazardous algae blooms, HABs. And, literally.
So that's SUNY of what? SUNY?
Stony Brook.
Yeah, SUNY Brook, right.
Okay.
They have a marine sciences group, I think, so.
Yes.
Anyway, I think if you have time to watch it, if you, even catching the 2021 was interesting, but I assume the 2021 one will be up on YouTube in a short time. I'm going to ask him to put it up. If I get it from him, I'll send it around. So,
Yeah, that'd be great.
it's a little technical, but actually some of that was interesting. They had a lot of neat charts and maps. Well, that was it for me. So Tom, Bell, I'll pass it on to you for the Harbor Masters report.
Nothing really to report except that just busy season, getting all the mooring covered. So,
Tom, you're having a lot of people,
oh yeah.
yeah, same as last year, or,
Yep. I just bought a boat. I need a mooring.
right?
Doesn't
Have
work
people
that way.
given up? Have people given up mooring since last year?
No. I shouldn't say that. I think about 4 or 5 people have, but they weren't really using them anyway.
Right.
So
So is the list as it's just stayed static? Do you go through it and see if people are still there for the new year, or how's it?
Yeah, but
go?
they pay each year, right, Bill? Or Tom?
yeah, no, it works just like the boat club or whatever. There's a nominal fee to keep people involved and make sure they're still using the moorings. And then I do 3 inspections a year, making sure that the boat registered on the mooring is the one I have in my system to make sure people aren't playing any games.
Yeah, that's gotta be tough.
Yep.
Tom,
Sometimes I use the Boy Scouts.
what happens when someone gives up their mooring? Do they take the tackle out and sell it, or is it passed on to the next person who gets that mooring?
Most of the time it's passed on. It's existing hardware. It's, a less expensive alternative. I've had 1 or 2 people wanted to put their own special moorings hardware in over the last couple of years, but most of the time it's, taking, because they're being assigned a spot, the mooring's actually in the spot. The mooring field is determined by the size of the boat.
Yeah.
So, like there was one gentleman who decided not to take advantage of the mooring this year because he was getting scared about the boat. He had bought a 48-foot sailboat that he wanted a mooring, and I told him the only place that would fit would be in the outer harbor. Turns out he has never sailed a boat before, hasn't got his boating license, has 2 kids and a wife. And I was trying to convince him to, at least for the first, before he really bought the boat, was to go on one of these boat sharing companies to see if everybody's going to like the boat. Because A, it's very expensive, and B, it's difficult. It may be difficult to get to it. If he was trying to join the boat club or the Norotan Yacht Club, and I chatted him about that, and I try to make sure that he knows how to steer a 48-foot sailboat.
Is this the big J boat at the end of the harbor on the eastern side?
No, he hasn't taken ownership of it yet, and long story short, he decided he found a slip in Stamford where he can get onto the dock. He was concerned that using the launch, he wouldn't be able to get up onto the boat, and with his kids and his wife, it was a lot of interesting discussions. And
That's
I think
scary. I think there's a lot of those people out there these days that are buying boats without the qualifications necessary.
Oh,
A little scary when you are out there in the United States.
my most famous story is my mooring is the second one in Scott Cove. As you go in, and I think it was mid-July, I watched this boat come into Scott Cove, and I'm telling you, he had 5 450 engines on the back. Wow. And he was going in very fast, and because my wife was on board, I'm not allowed to yell at people and tell them to slow down or whatever. So he went and tried to anchor and whatever, and 20 minutes later, he decides to leave Scott Cove and he runs it into a reef on would be the north side as you exit the harbor. And it's not too far away from where the clamshells are.
Yeah.
The clamshell, one of the areas where you took me to clamming there. And because he had the power, he could back it off.
Yikes.
But it was just, obviously no clue about how to drive the boat, pay attention to it, look for depth and whatnot.
Hmm.
And I've seen a lot of that, especially last summer. But they are required to get a Connecticut license, and that's about all I can insist on.
Minimally comforting.
Yes.
I'll give these people, though, a lot of credit for being attracted to the right activity, right? So I hope their learning curve is short.
Well, I think, it's also, I would expect at the end of this season to see a lot of boats for sale. Because you try it, and like this gentleman, he was very nice. I must have chatted with him 3 or 4 times, and no member of his family, including him, had ever been on a boat before.
Bought a 48-foot sailboat?
Yes.
Holy smokes.
And I'm trying to tell him to make sure I told him he need the Connecticut license, whatever, and I said, for the first 3 or 4 years that we had our boat, our kids were in school and young and whatever, and his kids are multiple ages, pre-teen, teen, and whatever. And I'm saying to myself, what happens if the wife or the kids don't like the boat? And it's like, but I've seen that multiple times. And so it's like,
That thing's never coming off the dock.
Yeah. So anyway,
When you're learning to sail, you want to start with dinghy. That's where you get the feel.
Yep.
Well,
so I tried to go to a boat club or boat sharing club.
Tom, you mentioned someone hitting the rocks by Ziegler's, and it reminded me, I was kayaking over the weekend, and I saw a pair of rock hazard buoys right off of Tokenique Beach, Tokenique Club. I
Yes.
didn't recognize that as something we've put out there. Are you familiar with that?
No. Unless they could be the club's buoys marking it.
They did have
Or-
growth down below, so it didn't strike me as that they were brand new, that they might have been from last season. But I just wasn't aware of those going in, and is that something that we want to know about when people do that, or if they intend to move it or put more of them out there, et cetera?
I'd have to look at it and see where it is, Bill.
Okay. Well, when you have a chance this summer, so right off of Tokenique Beach by about, 100 yards, 150 yards. There's 2 of them.
Offshore?
Yeah.
Okay, well, those could be the buoys that go point towards the 5 Mile River.
No, they're well off that beaten track. So there's a fellow who has sort of his own little harbor. He's got a little
Yes.
boathouse that's in a little harbor area he's sort of made. Do you know that house on the water?
Yes.
It's
I'm
sort
not
of
sure
right
I do.
off. It's sort of right off that.
Fish Island, or
No,
Tokenique?
they're more east of Fish Island. So if
Okay.
you know where we have a rock buoy near Fish Island, like you're going eastward of Fish Island, very near the shore, and there's a lone rock hazard buoy we've got out there.
Yes.
Yeah. If you keep going, maybe I don't know, no more than 5 minutes, and when you see Tokenique Beach Club emerge on your left, you'll be right about at these 2 rock hazard buoys they've got there, about 50 feet apart.
The only thing I could think of is there was one homeowner who put 1 or 2 buoys in there, was trying to, so he could navigate into his dock. Maybe that's what it is.
That might be it. I immediately thought, I didn't have a view on the buoys and the obstacle there. They seemed out of the way for most people, but I immediately thought we should know about that so that others don't do that, and you see these things proliferating up and down the coast.
No, they're not allowed to put the buoys in the water.
All right. Well,
Only the state can, or the Coast Guard.
glad for
Grant.
your thoughts later in the season on that, perhaps.
Okay. When I get my boat in the next couple of weeks, because I go by there, I'll take another look.
Well, Tom, if you're all set, I was going to switch to action discussion.
I'm all
I
set.
just, yeah,
I had a boat club question. For the boat club people last year, because we had closed the park, the boat club organized it like a launch day where everybody lined up and had slots. Are you doing that this year or just going back to normal? Because
yeah, we're back to normal this year.
Okay.
I believe, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, that we are providing the same guidance as last year with regard to masks and social distancing and things like that.
Yeah, but just so you know, Tom, the whole mask thing just almost imploded today. If you haven't read the paper from the governor,
Oh, what happened?
masks are almost optional now.
Oh, well, it doesn't mean we can't recommend them.
No, agreed completely.
Okay, but
Right.
but there'll be no schedule this year. People
No,
will
there's
just,
no sign
No.
up.
they'll just
schedule.
launch them because the boat is okay.
Yeah.
And are people, because we won't have a guard at the station, the little house has been put back till Memorial Day, but technically people are supposed to have a launch sticker. Do you know, do people do that or do they not bother?
I think they look to get away without buying a lunch sticker if they're only using the lunch twice a year.
Okay,
Put it in and wants to take it out.
okay,
That's my personal thought.
I would
That's
agree
fine.
with that.
that's my guess.
And during the season, they come in before the guards are there.
Yeah.
Tom, come on, giving away our secrets.
I know, I'm not stupid, guys. I mean, you know, I'm not stupid. I mean, last year, what we figured out is Ed Morgan was taking boats that he was servicing from Norotan and driving them around and launching them. And he's a contractor, he's from out of state. And we were like,
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know.
He's doing all that for town residents.
understood, but technically
it's
technically residents are
form-
supposed to buy a sticker.
Okay.
It could be for New Canaan residents, who knows, or New York City residents. Anyway.
Looking for shit.
Lorene, I'm wondering, has the town made additional plans for additional racks? I know there was a bit of controversy that you were proposing to put a rack between our gas tank and the parking lot, which we pretty much tried to discourage. Do you know if there's been any further development on that?
There were additional kayak racks built, and I believe they're there. I thought I saw them when I walked down
Pam
this
Geary,
weekend.
Pam Geary told me they're all there. That's going to be built this year. Yeah.
Yeah, they're there. I walked over yesterday. They were there.
All right, so what we see is what we get. Okay, yeah, we had an issue with you putting kayak racks between the gas tank platform and the road
Okay.
for our access of our truck. We didn't think that was the best idea, so.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at them, and if the location is not to your liking, the sooner you can let us know, the better, because there
Obviously, yes.
were
I
no
know that.
kayaks in them.
Right, I
but-
know that story.
Yeah, no, if I remember correctly, that issue was spoken, Bill and company, Rob spoke to a couple of people, and I think they agreed not to put the additional kayak racks near the gas unloading,
Okay,
gas fueling station, but we can make sure that they're still following that.
all right.
Hey, Grant, that we touched on DBC. How are things at the yacht club? Are you aware of what all the plans are this year yet, or?
Yeah, I had an email with with one of the flags, and Flip was on it too, who is on the safety and waterfront committee as well. They are, hoping to be able to offer regular programs, but are closely monitoring and following CDC and state guidelines. And we'll continue to do that before, there's not a lot of, things set in stone in public. We're trying to go forward with everything, but everything changes pretty quickly. So again, I think you'll see a summer with masks at the club and probably temperature check-ins and reservations coming up. Pretty cautious, I think, is what you're going to see. But hopeful for programs, and it's what I've heard so far.
And again, if you haven't heard, Jeff Heng is retiring. And their new water, they already have a new, I don't think he's the waterfront director, but they have his replacement.
I think they use the term waterfront manager, and his name is Hank.
Yep.
And from some of the brief things I've heard, he came from Long Island. He has a assistant manager with him, and no, that didn't happen, Lori?
No, Ben. His name is Ben.
He quit before he started, or a week after he started, because he got a better job.
He doesn't have an assistant?
That's what Doug heard, yeah.
Well, I hadn't heard that.
I think that he's run commercial boats, he's run yacht clubs and marinas and harbors and things. So I think from everything I've heard, he's got a pretty well-rounded resume and waterfront experience. So I have yet to meet him, but I've heard that he's a nice guy, and I look forward to meeting him.
Yeah, he was very cordial. We had a meeting with him and Flip a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, good.
Grant, do you anticipate changes in the waterfront, either like configuration or design or operations? Is he bringing new ideas that you've been looking for, or things in process?
I haven't been part of any of that. Flip might be a better one to talk to that when he's at the meeting. I just haven't, who knows? Everyone new has a new idea, right? So right. It wouldn't surprise me if he has ideas different from Jeff, but who knows?
I think the thing that's sort of interesting, both Grant and Tom Bell, we've all relied, all of us, the whole town, on Jeff Heng and the services he's supplied for all the mooring holders in the harbor, very heavily. And so I'm sort of assuming that Hank Work is going to just slot right into that same role.
I don't think you can assume that, because the yacht club is taking the mooring installation removal in-house. Jeff did it as a separate LLC. I mean, when he did it, you paid Jeff and contracted with him separately. My understanding is that that's now being handled through the yacht club, which would indicate to me that it's for yacht club members, but I haven't heard that specifically.
No, I've talked to Hank about that. He will service the members. He will service the non-members in the harbor.
Oh, he will. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Who owns the launch, not the launch, the barge that they use to pull the moorings up? Is that the Road Yacht Club property?
I believe so, yes. Now they also got a new one. The yacht club bought a new whatever you call it, a crane or whatever.
Barge, whatever.
Barge. And I haven't seen it yet, but I know it's in the harbor someplace.
It used to be privately owned by Jeff, and
no, they're not using Jeff. They're using. They bought a new one.
Okay.
Or maybe Hank is bringing it. Jeff was going to try to, keep a sideline business going for himself, but I guess he decided not to do that. The last I talked to him about, which was I think last week or the week before.
Okay, perfect.
Well, Grant and Tom, I might say that if you think the old system that we've all sort of relied on, Jeff was great at servicing moorings and doing it at a fair cost. If that starts to slip and people aren't like keeping track of things in the old way that we relied on Jeff to do for them, let us know. We need to make sure there's a good provider over there, or that people are being directed to a good provider and they're, proactively doing that every 3-year inspection thing.
Yes,
That
Well, Jeff
concerns me a bit.
Jeff inspected every year.
Yeah, right. Sorry. And there was a replacement, I think, policy of every 3 years for some of the parts.
Yeah, well, there was, and not to get too, too technical, but there was some discussion that Hank is going to use a different method to make sure that the hardware is safe. I'll leave it at that.
As long as everyone who's, a non-yacht club member knows he's still the guy to go to and do all this periodic process, that then we're
Yes.
covered. But if that starts to slip, which it did not under Jeff Eng, that would be of concern. Anyway. So should we do the section 5 action discussion? So this is really just sort of an update on a few things. We voted last meeting to move forward on doing a minimum mooring standards review. And let's see, I just would report Dave Deaver has volunteered and Rob Shuey's volunteered to work on that with Flip. And I'm also helping in the group. And we met, it was about a week and a half ago, guys.
Right.
Had an initial talk with Flip. And Flip has a lot of technical suggestions that he's worked out, I think, with Hank. And Tom, I think you've been a party to some of those. At least hearing of them, and are waiting to see what form they take, I guess, in terms of a policy suggestion. And Dave or Rob, do you maybe just want to talk about the task you're picking up at the moment on this?
Well, what we're trying to do is look at harbors that are similar to Darien. In other words, exposed to the south, which can be a problem. We decided to split up going east and going west. And I'm doing part of the east part up towards New Haven. And some of the harbors obviously are very large and have various rules for the clubs that are in them. And if you look at some of the Harbor Master and Harbor Commission reports, they're 15 pages in length and don't talk about specifications. So I'm trying to get some notes out to those guys and find out if they have an actual spec that they publish and give to whoever's going to put a mooring in. That's kind of where I stand on the east side. Rob, are you on?
Yeah, and I'm in that same collection process of sort of trying to distill what the information is out there and just communicate with the individual commission or harbor master just to sort of verify and see if there's anything that they'd like to add or amend, with regard to us creating a new standard.
And I think Flip had a good idea. He suggested that like your ultimate results from this survey work would be to create some sort of table or chart so we all could quickly glean what standards are in play up and down the coast, the appropriate ones.
So I don't know of any printed standard on my side so far. You got to remember some of these harbors are fairly large and actually encompass two sides of the town on each side.
One of the criteria that we were talking about was to get harbors which have fairly open exposure, something analogous to Darien's harbor. So, Flip's initial thought was, we should be looking maybe up in Marblehead, perhaps out on the islands, the Vineyard, Nantucket. Just get some of the harbors where it's a little more strenuous, and I think that would classify Darien's.
I've not gone that far.
Yeah. Well, so unless Dave or Rob, you've got more to add, that I think that's just the people stay tuned. I think that's a valuable checkpoint. And again, it's almost a decade, I think 9 years since we last did it. So makes some good sense.
Yeah, I think we'll have some more feedback by the time we speak next to be able to have a little bit more to sort of present.
Sounds good. So ultimately, there'll be a product that looks like our minimum mooring standards now. And I think, we'll, as a committee, as a commission, vote on that. And Tom, we certainly are going to want, Tom Bell, we're certainly going to want your views and input. So you may not be a voting member on this, but I think you're a prime customer, so.
Okay.
We also voted to proceed on the Padler safety flyer. And Lori, for this, you're the customer. I'm going to share my screen to show what we've done with your racks on the beach. Now, if my sound goes, I won't worry about you not hearing me. So this is, hopefully you can hear me. This is the small flyer we've put up on the racks. So this is sort of the main messaging device. It's obviously smaller and simpler than last year's. And it's very flat against the posts. And so hopefully these last through the season.
Are they laminated?
That's rather expensive to do for quantity, and it's also sort of a nuisance. And so this year I went with waterproof paper.
Okay.
I hope it lasts. If it doesn't, I won't use it again.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah.
if you want to pass them over to me, like for a page or something like that, or pass the PDF to me, I have a laminator. I could laminate it. Takes about.
Well, I'll remember that if we need to do a retake on these, if they tear off during the season, but I have a bunch of them still. It was quite a bit cheaper than doing the lamination.
Right, and just under, just a note, I was down at the club, was it 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago? It was a beautiful sunny Sunday. I was meeting people for paperwork. And this guy jumps on a paddleboard with no life jacket, a t-shirt and shorts, and that's it, and starts paddling out into the harbor. I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, that's hypothermia waiting to happen.
Oh, it's cold shock and perhaps death just going under the water once. I mean, it's like 45 degrees.
Right. I mean, it just baffles me that people don't realize this, especially after the deaths last year.
Yeah, I'm out there kayaking now, but I've got a full dry suit on and wetsuit hood. And I have gone over, and it's cold on your face. It's really cold.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's on the ends of the kayak racks are the bigger write-ups about why the safety tips were chosen. And I thought it made sense to still include those for parents, for example, who may say, hey, where'd these little signs come from and why do they make sense? So it shows Darien Parks and Rec and the police department and town hall stickers, and it gives more of a write-up and hopefully establishes authority that the smaller stickers maybe wouldn't carry for a skeptical parent.
Those look really nice. Really, really nice.
Thank you. I hope these bigger ones can make it through the wind. We'll see.
Yeah.
Bill, is this done over at the Weed Beach as well?
Yeah, and Weed Beach also. Here's how they're on the rack. I didn't put one on every post because I thought that might just look a little too too much.
No, that's
Still
smart.
busy. Yeah.
Every other. And then Grant has very nicely done this over at Norotan Yacht Club also, as this picture shows. That picture.
There's a long waiting list. We sold them out in the lottery, and I think each location has 100 or more person waiting list.
Wow.
And this is Grant. He put more on Norotan Bay Association's rack. They've got a lot of kayaks. So yeah, we've got everything covered except the Darien Boat Club. Guys, if you want some excess stickers, I've got them. Happy to deliver them to you if you want to put them up.
Sure.
So what did we do? I feel like last year, the year before, there was a discussion about giving people some kind of sticker or something that was going to go on the kayak or something with their contact information. Did we do that or did we not do that?
The boat club does that.
But I think Lori's right. We talked about somehow making those orange stickers available to people, because I think it was the Darien Sail and Power Squadron had a whole bunch of them. I think Frank Kemp was in on that. I'll get back with Frank, and maybe the thing would be they would be mailed out to people.
I thought the idea was that it was something that would be identifying on the kayak with a phone number, so that if a kayak kind of broke loose and was found floating, people, the police or whatever could call somebody and, say, we found this red kayak floating, and somebody could say, oh yeah, that's mine, but I'm home, or whatever. And I don't know that we ever did that or not. I know I had one commission member who's not on the commission anymore that thought having people post their phone number on their kayak might be a privacy issue or whatever, but I know we talked about it, but I don't recall how we ended up handling that.
Yeah, I'm a little foggy myself on it. It's really important to have your kayak and your phone number so the Coast Guard doesn't search all night for somebody who's just lost their kayak and not fallen out of it.
Right.
So let me see if Darien Sail and Power Squadron still has access to those stickers, and I'll see if we can't get a whole bunch, and then I'll call you and we'll see. Then you could decide what to do with them.
Okay.
I just have a quick note on the Unified Water Study. That is starting again. May 8th probably is the first of the season. Tom Bell and Tom L, that rhymes sort of. I've already talked to Bill Lowitz, and he says the boat's ready, the skiff, the DVC skiff.
Great.
So I'm all set there. If you guys are all set, and you guys will see a check for your operating costs coming sometime in the season. It's always a little unknown when it comes.
Thank you.
The other thing I might add with that is we could use another boat driver this year. If someone wants to sign up for a portion or all of the 12 occasions that we go out, that would be great. So if someone's either could drive the DBC launch or have their own boat, that would really help with the manpower of it this year. So if you want to get involved in it, let me know. Otherwise, we'll scrape by and get it done again this year. We're going to keep it going. And I think just the last thing on the action stuff was, we had a list of possible activities we sort of had in front of us last meeting. Is there any others that people would like to discuss, or anything not on the list that people would like to bring up? This is sort of another other business almost question.
Bill, did you want to talk about the Stanford piece? Are we talking about that? Can you hear me? I'm having trouble with my.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Bill, if you're referring to the mooring idea, the mooring wait list idea, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Okay. This is an item just open to everybody to think about a little bit. We were talking, Bill and I were talking about how do we chip away with some of this long waiting list at the boat club and out in the moorings. So one of my neighbors has given up with trying to wait for 10 or 15 years. So he went over to City of Stanford, and maybe some of you know this, and you call them up and they have moorings available for non-residents, and they mark them up, but not ridiculously. And when I called over there just to see how it was going, they have many moorings. This is over at Cove Park in particular. And there's also one at Sezik. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right.
Right.
So
when you say moorings, you mean dock space, right?
I'm sorry, dock space. Sorry, dock
Yes.
space.
Yeah, I was actually going to make the same point. I called them just last week.
Right. So, I mean, the option is, I would think this would be something that we should be providing to our residents, whether at the boat club or whether they're looking for moorings, is give them an alternative where they could actually put their boat in this year. Because they have plenty of them available. They do call up there. The rates are not ridiculous. For 17-footer and under, it's $600. 17 to 21 footer, it's $800, and no other charges. including a parking fee, a parking sticker that comes with it. So I think it's kind of our responsibility to give people an alternative when they call to a boat club or to a mooring and say, hey, go to our neighbors, call the city of Stamford. There's a party over there. We'll give you right to the moment, tell you if one's available.
Right, do you have a name by any chance, Bill?
Yeah, yep. So you call the city of Stamford at 203-977-4692. And you ask for Gloria. Gloria handles these year in and year out.
Yep.
And the other bonus, not to pick on Darien Boat Club, which I'm a member of as well, but their marina is open from April 3rd to November 28th, extra couple of months besides. So it's an easy in and out. Those people from Darien will be in Darien waters in no time. Does it have a little conflict that we want to keep everybody in Darien? Yeah, it does. But these people will get on the water immediately up to a certain point, and then they run out of spaces. But they have multiple spaces every year. And we walk our dog over there at a time, and I feel all summer long there's empties, a lot of empties.
Yeah. No, Bill, that was on my list of things to do. I actually spoke to the dock master down at Cove Park.
Yeah.
He gave me Gloria's name. I was gonna give her a call and get just a quick rundown of prices, just as a reference for the boat club.
Well, you can actually go. They're very, very transparent. You can go online. You can get the fees.
Oh, really?
Exactly as they are, and then just times 1.5. It's 1.5 for a non-resident. So you can do all the calculations.
Right. If you happen to have that link, can you just shoot it to my email? That'd be really helpful.
You think I'm not computer literate? Right now, I'm looking at blank screen because my battery's dead. So I will try to do that. Yes.
If you think of it, otherwise I'll just go out and do some digging.
Yeah, I mean, you just go through the city of Stamford and you go to marina fees and you plug a punch that, and they will give you that. They do not tell you how many are available. She is the keeper of that. But when I called her just a couple of days ago, she said,
I knew
what
that
size do you want?
Yeah, I knew that they had availability.
They also have all the way to 32 feet. You're not at that location, but so they are willing to.
Yeah.
So I just think we ought to be telling some of these people and tell them, instead of 15-year wait list, tell them, why don't you try there first?
No, I agree, because I don't think there was availability 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know why we're so jammed up and they're not.
Yeah, I don't know either. Could be demographic.
That's sort of puzzling.
Yeah, it is interesting. You're right. Anyway, that's my word.
No, that's great input.
Okay, thanks.
I guess I like, Bill brought this idea up, and I liked it quite a bit because it, treats our residents as customers, if you will. And if you're in a business, you try to please your customers and you do things to, make their life easy or easier. And if you're a young person moving into this town with a family, I mean, what's the amount of time you have to wait to get a boat and on the water and use it? And that's, Tom, what would you think if someone wants to buy a sailboat or a motorboat and throw it in the harbor? They have immediately like a 7 or 10 year wait.
Yes.
Yeah. So I like the idea a lot because it shows us being responsive to the people we answer to, which is the residents. And I immediately, right away, just sort of informally suggesting to people they go over there, I thought made sense. But I wondered if we wanted to do it more formally. And that's a question for us all to maybe think about or discuss. And by that, I mean, put it on the town website, or Tom, have it be something that you refer people to. And again, all the idea of trying to be responsive to the people who are our customers, the residents. I mean, Tom Bell, do you have a reaction to that in terms of your duties and what you're doing vis-a-vis the mooring applicants?
No, I mean, I've referred people to Cove, and I've referred people to Norwalk. I think some like it, some don't. It just.
Yeah, I plan on sending an email blast to everybody who's still on the wait list. That's probably 200 plus people, because you get people who come back every year and they complain and they complain and they complain, and maybe they're not looking and doing enough work on their own, but still it'd be good to point them in the right direction. Why not? I mean,
Yeah, I don't think it can hurt. And if they run out, so be it. And also the city of Stamford could use the money, I'll tell you that. So,
Yeah. So we had an interesting situation this year with the boat club. We offered, we didn't have a lot of slips come open, but we were able to offer probably 3 or 4 slips to people who didn't have boats. And pretty much all of them came back after 6 to 8 weeks. Absolutely could not find a boat. Couldn't
interesting.
find a boat at the price they liked. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I guess the point that you make, Bill, is that if people get a boat, it's so much easier if I know somebody has a boat to find a place for them and to move people around if necessary for them as sort of helping to manage the slips. I mean, if people
Right.
have a boat, it's so much easier. Plus, they're serious as opposed to, dancing around for 8 weeks and having them come back and say, well, I couldn't find a boat. And I believe them. I believe they couldn't find a boat, but that sort of puts the guy and 3 in back of them who didn't get the slip offer, who had a boat. He's now had to pay $4,000 to dock his boat in 5 Mile River for the season. And he might be able to get a 50% refund at this point. I mean, that's how they work it. So that's $2,000, out the door, out of his pocket, So I think it'd be good if people wanted to get their foot in the water and wanted to see if they even like boating, who don't have a boat, to get a boat and put it over in Stamford for a couple of years. I mean, I guess the one question I had is if Stamford, if you get a slip there as a non-resident, are you guaranteed the next year to be able to?
No, you're not. So that there is the downside is right. You have to apply for it every year. So one of my neighbors, he does that religiously every January.
Right.
He goes back to apply for it, and he hasn't had a problem in 5 or 6 years. But you're right. You could get bopped out, and there's no social scene over there. It's not the Darien Boat Club social scene. But you get to know your neighbor who fishes a lot. That's about it. I see. So it is a different environment, but it's access is really quick out into the sound. Although they need to dredge it as well, though. They're having a sandbar issue right at the mouth, so they'll have to get on that pretty quick. But anyway, I'm just pitching it because it might get some.
No, that's great reinforcement of a thought that I have already been thinking about. Yes.
Right.
And I found out completely by accident. I mean, I just took a drive to West Marine from my house on Post Road, and I drove past the park, and I was like, yeah, maybe I'll just drive into the marina and take a look. And I drove into Cove Marina, and I got the guy's phone number. I called him. He called me back. He gave me a couple sort of sample prices for residents only, and then said to my surprise that, there's a lot of slips available. And I was like, really? So.
And that was the word I got too, a lot. She didn't quantify it, but she wanted to say, what size boat do you have? I said, well, what if I had a 17, a 21? Oh, we have boats.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
So I guess that's good news. I mean, I'll pass that around and hopefully maybe help some people out this year. I mean, it's
Right.
So
Sounds good. Thanks.
It'd be interesting to keep tabs with the owner or the person you're talking to about how many Darien residents ultimately use it, so we can get sort of a feel of whether we're being successful in pushing it or offering it, recommending it. Well, that's interesting. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Why don't we just hit the Shellfish, and then I think we can wrap up. Interesting things there. We've had a series of talks with Janie Stevenson, and she and I both agreed, with her obviously being the decision maker, that the freights should be allowed to go back into Scott Cove. It's been a hard year for the pandemic. Their stores, their shellfishing business obviously has been hit really hard by closures of restaurants, and both felt that perhaps the lesson from their infraction was long enough. So now we don't control that, but we did then call up the CT Aquaculture and request that that part of their license, which was suspended, be reinstated, and they were okay with that. And so we told them that, and so we are going about getting them back into Scott Cove. And hopefully that makes for a better working relationship on the next rounds of their activity than just occurred. And to that extent, Eric, who's working heavily in all this, has been working on the details. Eric, I don't know if you've had any.
So I went through their paperwork, and one of the things that I did was when I was talking to Wayne Fox, the town attorney, we wanted to make sure, first of all, that it wasn't permanently revoked, which was not the case. It was just temporarily suspended until it was reinstated. And so you sent me all the documentation from 2017, 2018, when Roger Freight actually signed his lease agreement, for lack of a better term, and sent that back off to Wayne so that we could actually have a new agreement with the same parameters, the same timeframes of when he was allowed to go into Scott Cove and his relaying responsibilities and so forth. I sent that all off to him last Wednesday, I think, and haven't heard back, but I would imagine that sometime this week I should be able to hear back. I know that Roger is itching to be able to get back into Scotts Cove. So whatever parameters we give him, he will abide to.
Well, the nice thing about this is, from my understanding of aquaculture, which is very low, by the way, but I guess I've gone to a couple of these gathering of the shellfishermen and got absorbed something. To constantly work the beds is healthier for them than to let them sit and I guess get too much sediment and doesn't allow the clams to bury in as much. So we'll make a healthier Scott Cove by allowing it to be harvested in a healthy way. But the other thing is, quid pro quo with this, we're getting our bushels of clams deposited on our public beds.
That's one thing that we still don't have an answer on, obviously, is, we were supposed to either be invited to come on board and witness the actual restocking of the recreational beds. We have not seen that. Roger Sr. told me that it was done, but we've obviously gotten no proof, no pictures and so forth. So,
well, I was going to ask you, so I know from talks with Kristen DeRosio Bannock that we need to do that at 50 degrees of water and above.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand the scientific reasons for that, but I understand that to be a fact, a parameter we can't miss. So that's probably not for another several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes sense to make sure they know that, but they shouldn't be doing anything without letting you know.
It's all part of the agreement. In the contract that Roger signed in 2017, it actually does state the 50-degree
okay.
water temperature mark.
Well, how would you, I'll ask you, since you're taking on a lot of these duties, how would you like to handle the restocking? Do you want to go out in a boat with them? Do you want to have a?
So I actually also, as you know, I also have a personal relationship with Roger. So I when they do tell us that they want to go, I will definitely go with him, with his son and so forth. Possibly another member of the commission if someone wants to go with me, but I'd be more than happy to go with him, yes.
David Kahn, I know, has some views on where the shells have been, or the clams have been best deposited in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So
they
maybe,
were on Contentment Island near Fish Island, that whole area between Ziegler and Scotts Cove, where we have most of the recreational beds, was the primary locations where we did it in the past. I went with David, I think it was with Tim Pramer 3 years ago. And that's where we dumped a whole bunch of them, and pretty well.
all right, well, let us know. I'll leave that in your hands, how you want to,
No problem.
yeah, solicit them to do it and make sure they go in the spots we know they need to go in. And just maybe let some of the other commissioners know if there's anyone who wants to join, because in general, I think it's pretty fun to go out on the boat and see how they work it all. So
It's fun. It's dirty, but it's fun.
anything else, Eric, on the shellfish side?
No, I mean, when we did the Shellfish Commission's meeting a month and a half ago, I gave you the report at our last meeting. So I have nothing to add with regards to that.
All right. Any other business anyone would like to bring up? Maybe we're all set. We're at just almost our minimum for a quorum, but we were good and chatty. So I appreciate everyone's input on the call. So our next meeting is May 17. We get into an every month thing now until August break, and then we restart September, October, November. But anyway, May 17 is the next one, and I don't know what we'll have on the agenda, other than that, maybe more report on the clams and more reports on the mooring review. And then maybe it'd be interesting to see, Tom Lochtefeld, some of your thoughts after talking to the Stanford people.
Sure.
Well, that's it for me. Thank you all for attending, and why don't we then adjourn for the evening?
Okay. Nice motion.
Bye.
You guys.
All right.
Hi, guys.